The National Security Operations Center, buried 5 levels beneath the Department of Justice, had been sealed under the highest classification protocols for 8 consecutive days, with Attorney General Pam Bondi presiding over what federal counterterrorism officials described as the most critical infrastructure threat briefing since the establishment of the Department of Homeland Security. The ultra-secure facility, protected by electromagnetic shielding and quantum-encrypted communication systems, buzzed with the controlled intensity of federal agents, intelligence analysts, military cyber warfare specialists, and critical infrastructure experts who had been working around the clock to uncover an ISIS-inspired terrorist network that had successfully infiltrated American electrical power systems with plans to conduct coordinated attacks that could plunge major portions of the United States into darkness for weeks or months. The Operations Center had been specially configured as a national critical infrastructure defense facility with over 600 workstations equipped with classified computer systems that provided real-time monitoring of electrical power grids, telecommunications networks, water treatment facilities, and transportation systems across all 50 states. Advanced threat detection software processed millions of data points from utility companies, government agencies, and international intelligence sources to identify vulnerabilities and monitor for indicators of terrorist infiltration or attack planning that could threaten the technological infrastructure that modern American society depended upon for basic survival. The ISIS-inspired network, designated Operation Darkstorm by federal investigators, represented the most sophisticated evolution of terrorist tactics since the September 11th attacks, combining traditional Islamic extremist ideology with advanced technical capabilities and systematic infiltration of critical infrastructure systems that provided them with the ability to conduct attacks that could affect millions of Americans, while potentially causing casualties that exceeded those of conventional terrorist operations. Unlike previous ISIS operations that had focused primarily on mass casualty attacks against symbolic targets, the power grid plot represented a strategic approach to terrorism that targeted the foundation systems that kept American civilization functioning. The investigation had begun 14 months earlier, when Department of Energy cybersecurity specialists conducting routine monitoring of electrical grid computer networks discovered unauthorized access attempts that displayed technical sophistication and persistence patterns that suggested systematic reconnaissance rather than typical cybercriminal activity. The attempted intrusions were initially classified as routine cybercrime, but the geographic distribution, timing patterns, and technical methods suggested coordination that exceeded the capabilities of typical criminal hackers and indicated possible terrorist or foreign intelligence involvement. The breakthrough had come when FBI Cyber Division analyst Dr. Rebecca Martinez, working with National Security Agency cryptographers and Department of Energy infrastructure specialists, successfully traced the unauthorized access attempts to a network of individuals who had been recruited through ISIS online propaganda while simultaneously receiving advanced technical training from sources that appeared to be connected to foreign intelligence services. The investigation revealed that ISIS had successfully adapted its recruitment and operational methods to exploit vulnerabilities in American critical infrastructure while maintaining the ideological motivation and operational security that had characterized their more traditional terrorist operations. Dr. Martinez had spent her career investigating cyber threats against American critical infrastructure, from individual hackers to sophisticated criminal organizations to nation-state cyber warfare operations. She had developed expertise in identifying patterns that distinguish between different types of cyber threats while creating analytical techniques that could track sophisticated adversaries across multiple computer networks and operational domains. But the ISIS infrastructure network represented something entirely new in terrorist operations, a systematic integration of religious extremism with advanced technical capabilities and strategic targeting that challenged every assumption about terrorist organizational evolution. FBI Counterterrorism Division Director Marcus Rodriguez presented the threat assessment that had emerged from 14 months of investigation involving resources from across the federal intelligence and law enforcement communities. Rodriguez had spent his career investigating international terrorism, from al-Qaeda networks to domestic extremist groups to foreign-sponsored terrorist operations. But the ISIS power grid plot represented a fundamental evolution in terrorist capabilities that combined traditional extremist methods with technical sophistication and strategic planning that exceeded anything previously documented in terrorist investigations. "What we have uncovered is not traditional terrorist activity," Rodriguez began, addressing the national security leadership team that included senior officials from every federal agency responsible for critical infrastructure protection, counterterrorism, and national security. "This is a comprehensive terrorist operation that has successfully combined religious extremist ideology with advanced cyber warfare capabilities, systematic infiltration of critical infrastructure systems, and strategic planning designed to cause widespread disruption of American society. We are confronting a terrorist network that has evolved beyond conventional attack methods to pursue capabilities that could affect the daily lives of millions of Americans." The organizational structure revealed the unprecedented sophistication of the ISIS-inspired operation. At the leadership level was a cell of American citizens who had been radicalized through online ISIS propaganda but had subsequently received advanced technical training from sources that intelligence analysis suggested were connected to foreign cyber warfare programs. The leadership cell included individuals with advanced degrees in electrical engineering, computer science, and cybersecurity who had used their legitimate professional credentials to gain access to critical infrastructure systems while secretly planning terrorist attacks. The operational commander was Dr. Ahmed Hassan, a naturalized American citizen who had immigrated from Syria in the early 2000s and had established himself as a successful electrical engineer working for major utility companies across the eastern United States. Hassan had used his professional positions to conduct systematic reconnaissance of electrical power systems while recruiting other radicalized individuals with technical backgrounds to support terrorist operations. His legitimate professional credentials had provided him with access to sensitive infrastructure information and had allowed him to avoid suspicion while conducting extensive terrorist planning. Hassan represented the most dangerous evolution of terrorist threats, highly educated professionals who had successfully integrated into American society while secretly maintaining extremist ideologies and planning sophisticated attacks against the communities that had provided them with opportunities and acceptance. His radicalization had occurred gradually through online exposure to ISIS propaganda, but his technical capabilities had been enhanced through contacts with foreign entities that had provided him with advanced training in cyber warfare and infrastructure attack methods. The technical operations were managed by Sarah Abdullah, an American-born convert to Islam who had been radicalized through online extremist networks while pursuing advanced degrees in computer science and cybersecurity. Abdullah had used her technical expertise to develop sophisticated cyber attack tools while establishing a network of radicalized individuals with complementary technical skills who could support complex operations against multiple infrastructure targets simultaneously. Abdullah's case demonstrated how ISIS had successfully adapted its recruitment methods to target individuals with critical technical skills who could advance terrorist objectives in ways that exceeded traditional attack capabilities. Her radicalization had been conducted through sophisticated online influence operations that had gradually introduced extremist ideology while identifying and exploiting her technical capabilities for terrorist purposes. The cyber warfare specialist was Marcus Johnson, an African-American convert who had been recruited while serving in the United States military and had used his military training in cybersecurity to develop advanced capabilities for attacking critical infrastructure computer systems. Johnson had maintained his security clearances while secretly planning terrorist operations, providing the network with inside knowledge of American cyber defense capabilities and access to classified information about infrastructure vulnerabilities. Johnson's recruitment, while serving in the American military, represented a critical security breach that demonstrated how terrorist organizations had successfully identified and exploited vulnerabilities in American security screening procedures. His case revealed that traditional background investigation methods were inadequate for detecting ideological radicalization that occurred after initial security clearances had been granted, creating ongoing risks that required enhanced monitoring and periodic re-evaluation of cleared personnel. The terrorist activities conducted by the network were diverse and sophisticated, representing capabilities that exceeded those of traditional terrorist organizations while targeting vulnerabilities that could cause widespread disruption with relatively small numbers of operatives. Cyber warfare operations included advanced persistent threat attacks against electrical utility computer networks, telecommunications systems, and water treatment facilities that were designed to establish persistent access that could be activated for coordinated attacks against multiple targets simultaneously. The cyber operations were particularly sophisticated because they combined multiple attack vectors that exploited different types of vulnerabilities in critical infrastructure systems. Network intrusions targeted computer systems that controlled electrical power generation and distribution, allowing terrorists to potentially manipulate power flows in ways that could cause cascading failures across regional electrical grids. The intrusions also targeted supervisory control and data acquisition systems that monitored and controlled industrial processes, creating possibilities for causing physical damage to infrastructure equipment while disrupting services that millions of Americans depended upon. Physical reconnaissance operations included systematic surveillance of critical electrical infrastructure facilities, including power plants, transmission substations, and distribution centers that were essential to regional electrical grids. The reconnaissance was conducted by network members who had legitimate reasons to be present at target facilities, including employees of utility companies, contractors who provided services to utilities, and individuals who had obtained employment with companies that had access to critical infrastructure facilities. The physical reconnaissance was particularly concerning because it revealed vulnerabilities in critical infrastructure security that could be exploited for physical attacks that would complement cyber operations. The terrorists had identified single points of failure in electrical transmission systems that could be attacked with conventional explosives or other methods to cause widespread power outages that would be difficult to repair quickly. The combination of cyber and physical attack capabilities created possibilities for coordinated operations that could cause extended disruptions of electrical service across multiple states. Weapons procurement operations had successfully obtained explosives, firearms, and specialized equipment that could be used for attacks against critical infrastructure facilities while maintaining operational security that had prevented law enforcement detection. The weapons procurement included not just conventional explosives, but specialized equipment designed to cause maximum damage to electrical infrastructure, including devices that could be used to destroy high-voltage transmission lines and transformer equipment that would be difficult and time-consuming to replace. Department of Energy Critical Infrastructure Protection Director Jennifer Walsh presented the infrastructure vulnerability analysis that revealed the scope of potential damage that could be caused by coordinated terrorist attacks against American electrical power systems. Walsh had spent her career analyzing threats to American energy infrastructure, but the ISIS network's capabilities and target selection represented a level of strategic thinking that challenged every assumption about terrorist understanding of modern technological vulnerabilities. The terrorist network has successfully identified critical vulnerabilities in American electrical power systems that could be exploited to cause widespread blackouts affecting millions of Americans, Walsh reported, displaying maps and technical diagrams that showed the interconnected nature of regional electrical grids and the single points of failure that had been targeted by terrorist reconnaissance. Their technical analysis demonstrates sophisticated understanding of electrical power systems that has allowed them to identify attacks that could cause maximum disruption with relatively limited resources. A coordinated attack against the targets they have identified could potentially cause electrical outages lasting weeks or months across multiple states. The vulnerability analysis revealed that American electrical power systems had been designed for efficiency and reliability rather than security against sophisticated attacks, creating multiple single points of failure that could be exploited by adversaries with advanced technical knowledge and coordination capabilities. The electrical grid's interconnected nature, which normally provided resilience against equipment failures and natural disasters, also created opportunities for cascading failures that could propagate across large geographic areas if critical components were successfully attacked. The target selection demonstrated that the terrorist network had conducted systematic analysis of electrical power systems to identify the most critical vulnerabilities while avoiding targets that were heavily protected or that would be likely to trigger massive law enforcement responses. The targets included electrical transmission substations that served as critical nodes in regional power grids, specialized transformer equipment that was difficult to replace quickly, and control systems that coordinated power flows across multiple utilities. The timing analysis conducted by the terrorist network revealed understanding of seasonal and daily patterns in electrical power demand that could be exploited to maximize the impact of coordinated attacks. Summer attacks during periods of peak air conditioning demand could cause health emergencies among vulnerable populations, while winter attacks could create life-threatening situations for individuals dependent on electrical heating systems. The terrorists had also analyzed the timing required for utility companies to restore service after different types of attacks, identifying methods that would cause the longest possible service disruptions. The cascade failure analysis demonstrated that the terrorist network understood how attacks against specific targets could trigger automatic protective systems that would shut down additional power generation and transmission facilities to prevent equipment damage. This understanding had allowed them to identify attack scenarios that could cause electrical outages far beyond the immediate targets of their operations, potentially affecting electrical service across entire regions of the United States. NSA Cyber Threat Intelligence Division Director Michael Torres presented the cyber warfare analysis that revealed the sophisticated nature of the network's computer attack capabilities and their potential for causing physical damage to critical infrastructure equipment through cyber operations alone. Torres had spent his career analyzing nation-state cyber warfare capabilities, and the ISIS network's cyber operations displayed technical sophistication that rivaled those of foreign intelligence services while being directed by terrorist ideology rather than traditional nation-state objectives. The terrorist network has developed cyber warfare capabilities that could potentially be used to cause physical damage to electrical power infrastructure without requiring physical access to target facilities, Torres reported, displaying technical analysis of terrorist cyber operations and their potential effects on critical infrastructure systems. They have successfully penetrated computer networks that control electrical power generation and distribution systems, and they have developed attack tools that could potentially be used to manipulate these systems in ways that could cause equipment failures, power outages, and even physical damage to expensive infrastructure equipment that would be difficult to replace. The cyber warfare capabilities included sophisticated malware that had been specifically designed to attack industrial control systems used by electrical utilities to manage power generation and distribution. The malware was capable of manipulating control systems in ways that could cause equipment to operate outside safe parameters, potentially causing physical damage to generators, transformers, and other critical equipment while simultaneously disrupting electrical service to customers. The network penetration had successfully compromised computer systems belonging to multiple electrical utilities across different regions of the United States, providing the terrorist network with access to real-time information about power grid operations while establishing persistent access that could be used for coordinated attacks. The penetrations had been conducted using advanced techniques that had successfully avoided detection by cybersecurity systems while maintaining long-term access that had allowed terrorists to study power grid operations and develop attack strategies. The attack tools developed by the terrorist network included not just malware designed to disrupt computer systems, but sophisticated programs that had been specifically engineered to cause maximum damage to electrical infrastructure while maintaining operational security that would prevent rapid identification of the attack source. The tools included capabilities for launching coordinated attacks against multiple targets simultaneously while using compromised computer systems to launch additional attacks that would complicate response efforts. The intelligence gathering conducted through cyber operations had provided the terrorist network with detailed information about electrical power grid vulnerabilities, emergency response procedures, and restoration capabilities that had been used to optimize attack planning while identifying methods for maximizing the duration and scope of service disruptions. The intelligence included information about backup power systems, emergency response protocols, and infrastructure repair capabilities that had been essential to developing realistic attack scenarios. Homeland Security, Cybersecurity, and Infrastructure Security Agency Director Sarah Martinez presented the Critical Infrastructure Protection Analysis that revealed the broader implications of the terrorist plot for American national security and economic stability. Martinez had spent her career analyzing threats to American critical infrastructure, and the ISIS power grid plot represented a new category of threat that combined terrorist ideology with strategic targeting that could affect the fundamental systems that modern American society depended upon for survival. The terrorist plot represents a fundamental threat to American national security that extends far beyond traditional terrorism, Martinez reported, displaying economic impact analyses and casualty projections that showed the potential consequences of successful attacks against electrical power infrastructure. Extended electrical outages could cause economic damage measured in hundreds of billions of dollars, while potentially causing thousands of casualties among vulnerable populations who depend on electrical power for medical equipment, heating and cooling systems, and other life-sustaining services. The psychological impact of widespread power outages could cause social disruption that would serve terrorist objectives, while creating additional challenges for emergency response and law enforcement agencies. The economic impact analysis revealed that coordinated attacks against electrical power infrastructure could cause economic damage that exceeded that of major natural disasters, while creating disruptions that could affect every sector of the American economy. Manufacturing operations, financial services, telecommunications, transportation, and healthcare systems all depended on reliable electrical power, and extended outages could cause cascading failures across multiple economic sectors simultaneously. The casualty projections included direct casualties caused by loss of electrical power for medical equipment, heating and cooling systems, and other life-sustaining services, as well as indirect casualties caused by social disruption, economic dislocation, and breakdown of essential services that depended on electrical power. The projections suggested that successful coordinated attacks could potentially cause casualties that exceeded those of major terrorist attacks, while creating ongoing humanitarian crises that could persist for weeks or months. The social disruption analysis indicated that extended electrical outages could cause breakdown of essential services, including water treatment, sewage systems, fuel distribution, food refrigeration, and telecommunications that could create humanitarian emergencies, requiring massive federal response, while potentially causing social unrest that would complicate emergency response efforts. The disruption could disproportionately affect vulnerable populations, including elderly individuals, disabled Americans, and low-income communities that had limited resources for dealing with extended service outages. The national security implications included potential disruption of military installations, government facilities, and emergency response capabilities that could affect America's ability to respond to additional threats while dealing with the immediate consequences of infrastructure attacks. The attacks could also create opportunities for other adversaries to exploit American vulnerability, while federal resources were focused on infrastructure restoration and emergency response. FBI Cyber Division Director Patricia Rodriguez presented the digital forensics analysis that had revealed the full scope of the terrorist network's cyber operations, while identifying the sources of their advanced technical training and attack capabilities. Rodriguez had spent her career investigating cyber crimes and cyber terrorism, and the ISIS network's digital operations displayed characteristics that suggested coordination with foreign cyber warfare programs, while maintaining the ideological motivation and operational security that characterized terrorist organizations. The terrorist network's cyber capabilities exceed what would be expected from self-taught extremists, and suggest they have received advanced training from foreign sources with sophisticated cyber warfare capabilities, Rodriguez reported, displaying technical analysis of terrorist malware and attack tools that showed similarities to cyber warfare programs operated by foreign intelligence services. While the network maintains ISIS ideological orientation and targets consistent with terrorist objectives, their technical capabilities appear to have been enhanced through coordination with foreign entities that have provided them with advanced cyber warfare training and attack tools. The technical analysis revealed that the terrorist network's cyber attack tools included components that had been previously identified in cyber warfare operations conducted by foreign intelligence services, suggesting technology transfer or training relationships that had provided terrorists with access to nation-state-level cyber warfare capabilities. The tools were more sophisticated than typical terrorist cyber operations and included features that suggested professional development by experienced cyber warfare specialists. The training analysis indicated that terrorist network members had received instruction in advanced cyber warfare techniques that exceeded what was available through online resources or typical computer security training programs. The training appeared to have been provided through direct contact with individuals who had experience in nation-state cyber warfare operations, suggesting coordination between terrorist organizations and foreign intelligence services. The operational security procedures used by the terrorist network in their cyber operations displayed sophistication that was consistent with foreign intelligence service training while maintaining compartmentalization and security practices that were characteristic of terrorist organizations. The procedures included techniques for avoiding detection by cybersecurity systems while maintaining persistent access to target networks that suggested professional training in cyber warfare operations. The coordination patterns between terrorist cyber operations and other network activities suggested integration between cyber warfare capabilities and traditional terrorist planning that had been optimized through professional consultation with entities that had experience in coordinating complex operations against critical infrastructure targets. Bondi studied the threat assessments and intelligence reports that covered the walls of the operations center, each document representing months of investigation by federal agents and intelligence analysts who had uncovered one of the most sophisticated terrorist plots in American history. The scope of the ISIS-inspired infrastructure attack plan challenged traditional approaches to counter-terrorism while requiring responses that combined law enforcement with critical infrastructure protection and cyber warfare capabilities. The ISIS-inspired power grid plot represents a fundamental evolution in terrorist threats that challenges every assumption about terrorist capabilities and objectives, Bondi announced to the assembled National Security Leadership Team. We are confronting a terrorist network that has successfully combined religious extremism with advanced technical capabilities and strategic planning designed to cause widespread disruption of American society. This is not traditional terrorism. This is a systematic attempt to attack the foundation systems that modern American civilization depends upon for basic survival. The response strategy, designated Operation Grid Shield, would involve the largest critical infrastructure protection operation in American history, requiring coordination between law enforcement agencies, intelligence services, utility companies, and emergency management organizations across all levels of government. The operation would simultaneously address immediate terrorist threats while implementing comprehensive security enhancements that would protect critical infrastructure from future attacks. Phase 1 would involve coordinated arrests of terrorist network members across multiple states, targeting individuals who had been planning attacks while seizing the cyber warfare tools and attack capabilities that had been developed for infrastructure operations. The arrests would be coordinated with cyber operations to neutralize terrorist access to compromised computer systems while preserving evidence of their attack planning and capabilities. Phase 2 would involve comprehensive security assessments of electrical power infrastructure that had been targeted by terrorist reconnaissance, implementing immediate security enhancements while identifying additional vulnerabilities that could be exploited by future attacks. The security enhancements would include both physical security improvements and cybersecurity measures designed to prevent future penetration of critical infrastructure computer systems. Phase 3 would involve coordination with utility companies to implement enhanced monitoring and detection capabilities that would identify future terrorist attempts to penetrate electrical power systems while developing response procedures that would minimize the impact of successful attacks. The coordination would include information sharing protocols that would allow rapid dissemination of threat intelligence while maintaining operational security for sensitive intelligence sources and methods. Phase 4 would involve comprehensive counterintelligence operations to identify and neutralize foreign intelligence connections that had provided advanced training and capabilities to terrorist networks. The counterintelligence operations would address the technology transfer and training relationships that had enhanced terrorist capabilities while implementing measures to prevent future foreign support for terrorist infrastructure attacks. Phase 5 would involve international coordination to address foreign entities that had provided support for terrorist operations while pursuing diplomatic initiatives to prevent future foreign assistance for terrorist attacks against American critical infrastructure. The ISIS-inspired network believed they could exploit vulnerabilities in American critical infrastructure to cause widespread disruption while avoiding the massive law enforcement response that would follow traditional terrorist attacks, Bondi told the assembled National Security Leadership Team. They calculated that their technical sophistication and foreign intelligence support would allow them to conduct attacks that would cause maximum disruption while maintaining operational security that would prevent effective law enforcement response. She paused, studying the faces of the federal officials who would be coordinating the most comprehensive critical infrastructure protection operation in American history. They are about to discover that the United States government has the capability, the determination, and the legal authority to protect American critical infrastructure from any threat, regardless of its sophistication or foreign support. Operation Grid Shield will demonstrate that no terrorist organization, regardless of its technical capabilities or international connections, can successfully threaten the foundation systems that American society depends upon for survival. The National Security Leadership Briefing concluded with operational assignments that would mobilize thousands of federal agents, intelligence analysts, cybersecurity specialists, and critical infrastructure experts in a coordinated response to eliminate the terrorist threat, while implementing comprehensive security enhancements that would protect American society from future infrastructure attacks. The terrorist network that had spent over a year planning sophisticated attacks against American electrical power systems would face the full capabilities of American national security agencies united in defense of critical infrastructure. As the National Security Leadership Team prepared for Operation Grid Shield, Bondi remained in the operations center, studying the intelligence displays that showed terrorist penetration of American critical infrastructure systems. Somewhere within those networks, American citizens who had been radicalized by foreign terrorist ideology had been planning attacks that could cause widespread suffering while advancing the objectives of enemies who sought to destroy American society. But they had underestimated the vigilance and capabilities of American intelligence agencies and the determination of American law enforcement to protect innocent lives from terrorist threats. They were about to learn that Attorney General Pam Bondi's Justice Department would pursue terrorist threats with relentless determination while implementing comprehensive security measures that would protect American critical infrastructure from future attacks. Within 72 hours, Operation Grid Shield would begin, and the terrorist network that had planned to plunge American cities into darkness would face the overwhelming response of American national security agencies united in defense of the technological infrastructure that modern American civilization depended upon for survival.